It's not often that Congress agrees entirely on something, which is exactly what the Senate did on the Take It Down Act. Turning Point White House correspondent Monica Paige put together a fantastic package. Let's watch this, and then we'll check in with Monica on any new information. But also, there's some other interesting Oval Office stuff that I feel like we should also have in discussion after that. Watch this.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump officially signed the Take It Down Act into law, going into effect immediately.
This will be the first ever federal law to combat the distribution of explicit, imaginary, posted without subjects' consent. We will not tolerate online sexual exploitation, and especially it's gone on at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's getting worse and worse, and I think this is going to hopefully stop it.
This bipartisan supported legislation is designed to combat non-consensual sexual imagery, including deepfakes and revenge porn, criminalizing the publication of these kinds of images. Behind the creation of the Take It Down Act is Texas teen Elliston Berry.
I mean, when this first situation happened, I was terrified to even walk out of my bedroom. So being here today, speaking my story, and having a bill being signed that protects people, it's just been a full circle moment. I mean, it's been so much healing for me, and it just means so much to me to have this ability to speak and share my story and really just validate my feelings, because when this first happened, everyone thought I was overreacting. And in reality, it's not. This situation is increasing, and it's just so important to have something like this, and it really just means so much.
Elliston fell victim to inappropriate artificial intelligence images created of her online when a classmate took a photo of her from her Instagram account, ran it through an AI program that removed her dress, and sent the digitally altered image around on Snapchat. Upon reporting the incident, her senator, Ted Cruz, got wind of it and sent it to the president's desk with near unanimous bipartisan support.
When the First Lady first took up on this issue, I was speechless. I had never even thought that this would ever sort of happen. And even all this movement and awareness that's being brought has just been so encouraging. And being up there and sitting next to her was so inspiring, especially because I'm just a normal teenager that has the ability and has that opportunity to sit by her. And it really is just so amazing, the fact that she has taken up on my story and taking up and has a heart for protecting children. It's been so amazing.
Unfortunately, sexual images created by AI are not entirely uncommon. According to a 2024 report from Home Security Heroes, more than 95,000 deepfake videos were created online in 2023 alone, a whopping 550% increase from 2019, with 96% of those videos being non-consensual pornography, primarily targeting women. Ahead of the signing, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told Frontlines what the consequences would be if platforms refused to comply with the Take It Down Act. Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned the President and the First Lady are signing the historic Take It Down Act this afternoon. I'm curious to know, what are some of the repercussions or consequences for these online platforms or perpetrators that won't comply with the act?
Well, what this bill does, it takes the initial step to ensure that prosecutors are able to take down, that's why it's called the Take It Down Act, platforms that are allowing this sexually explicit content on their platform. So it gives them more leeway to go after them as they see fit.
The Federal Trade Commission will be in charge of enforcement for those non-compliant platforms and perpetrators. Those officials say if the images and its duplicates are not removed within 48 hours of notification, penalties are jail time, fines, or both, with the level of penalty differing depending on whether the victim is a minor or adult. Now, many say this is the tip of the iceberg in keeping Americans, especially young teens, safe from digitally created sexual abuse. And as for Elliston, her fight is far from over.
My message to anyone that's been going through a situation similar is to not give up. I mean, your voice matters, and it's really important to have conversations, and conversations matter, and talking about this, because I would still be in my bedroom alone, probably crying, if I didn't have an amazing mother and an amazing friend group that also was there for me and that also went through something similar. And our next steps is, hopefully when this bill gets in place, we're able to have that handbook to hold the perpetrator accountable and big tech accountable. But next, my mom and I are working with a bunch of people to get AI curriculum implemented in order to protect more people in bigger environments, and have schools have some sort of handbook, and for any really work facility to have some sort of handbook in order to contradict these AI crimes.
From the White House for Frontlines with Turning Point, I'm Monica Paige.
As powerful stuff. Let's bring back Turning Point's White House correspondent Monica Paige. Monica, that was, again, not many times that everybody agrees on something, but 100% of senators voted for this. Huge numbers in the House. I think 22 people didn't vote. Two Republicans voted no, and that that's their own kind of personal thing, and don't really need to get into it. But the overwhelming majority of Congress thought this was a good idea. You were around this whole thing. I think you were the first person that I heard talking about this because the mainstream media is not really hot to trot about this issue. What more can you fill in any gaps that might have missed in that, not missed in that piece, but that might be helpful to contextualizing this?
Absolutely. Well, this is a bill that was really championed by Texas Senator Ted Cruz when it was brought to his attention by a young teen girl of Texas, Elliston Berry, who I was able to interview in that package. And she really voiced her displeasure with her local community off camera. She was saying she couldn't really get the resources locally that she really needed to kind of bring her message and spread the awareness of what happened to her, because guaranteed she's not the only one, and guaranteed that artificial intelligence is only going to get more and more complex. So this is really just the beginning. It could just be the tip of the iceberg as to what's to come. And it's important that we clamp down on these issues now rather than later. And First Lady Melania Trump actually really has been spearheading this at the White House, which I also think is fantastic, because you don't really hear much from the First Lady. You mostly hear from the president himself. But to get a lot of bipartisan support as far as what the First Lady is doing, I think is also incredible, especially recognizing that this happens to the majority. 96% of women face something like this. So to see Melania Trump as being, the face for something like this and spearheading it, it brings and instills a lot of confidence in the American people, especially with young Americans who we are in such a digital age right now. Anything can happen. The picture gets into the wrong hands of somebody, a bad actor, and who knows what could happen. So it was very, I guess, it makes me feel a little bit more secure having this kind of administration that's really putting a stop to something like this. And I actually reached out to the FTC because the FTC is going to be pushing forward a type of punishment. And it's not going to be the DOJ, it'll be the FTC. And he basically said that depending on whether the victim is an adult or a minor, the perpetrator or these online platforms that do not comply will be facing some kind of penalty as far as jail time or
Yeah.
fines. So there will be some accountability to be held as far as those who do not comply with something like this.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible, and it just gives me
Mhm.
some hope politically too, right? Because everything is so contentious, and it's good
Yeah.
to know that there are some things that we can just all agree on and go, yeah, this is bad. We should figure out how to
Yeah.
how to stop it. But Monica, this is outside of this particular issue, just because we've got you for a little bit longer. You've been hot to trot about the differences between the Trump White House and the Biden White House. And again, we're not trying to relitigate the Biden administration just being bad, but instead put the context of how awesome it is to have a president that's so accessible that President Trump has been. Can you kind of tell us about the differences between the Oval Office meetings, the scheduling for the president, the media accessibility, all that?
Well, what's interesting, I find, is that when the world leaders come here to the White House, they have the color guard out here. The flags are up. It's such a warm welcome when you arrive here at the White House if you're a world leader under President Trump. There were many times under the Biden administration where these world leaders would come to visit and they wouldn't even have any sort of military salute or any sort of warm welcome. You just kind of drive up to the Oval Office and Joe Biden wouldn't even greet some of these world leaders. The president always makes it apparent and a point to stand at the front door, give a handshake, take a photo, and say, "Come on in, let's talk." And I think that's the very first stark difference that I really recognize. And the second, close second, comes when they're sitting in the Oval Office together. Under Joe Biden, he would mumble a couple of sentiments: "Welcome, thanks so much for being here. We're looking forward to our conversation." Give a handshake, and then the comms people at the White House would say, "Okay, thanks, press," and usher everybody out before they even get a chance to even discuss some of these issues. But under President Trump, I'm finding, which is so interesting, is the president will sit there for 45 minutes to an hour and a half with these world leaders and
Mhm.
talk to the public publicly in front of national television, in front of millions of Americans, and even on the world stage about some of these issues that these other countries are facing and how the United States can help, how we can be partners together. And we've been seeing this time and time again over, more than 100 days at this point from this administration. And I think it's very important to note, seeing our relationship with these countries, whereas, we don't know exactly what Joe Biden spoke about with some of the other countries in the previous
Yeah.
administration. But like you mentioned, posting online on social media, just the stark difference is we get the daily guidance from the Biden administration. The lid would be called, which means you're not going to hear or see the president or hear from the White House for the rest of the day. Before noon, you'd see 9:40 a.m., 10:40 a.m., 9 on a random Tuesday. It's very interesting, and those were days at a time. We'd actually go weeks without even getting a press briefing. I started here at the White House 2023 back in the summertime, and there were months and weeks that went by where we didn't know what was happening at the White House because there was no press briefing. We get maybe one or two a week here at the White House now under this current administration. So to say that it's a difference is just the beginning. I mean, it's night and day. Clearly, this being the daytime, and the other administration being the nighttime. But the amount of accessibility, it's unbelievable.
Well, Monica, as you know, the hallmark of dictators is transparency, because again, the media calls President Trump a dictator, and dictators hate transparency. Obviously, I'm kidding, but that's fascinating to hear. Monica, great reporting as always. Really appreciate you taking an extended period of time today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, you guys.